As a data scientist, you might think that everything I read is technical, but that's far from being the truth. I'm someone that likes to read a lot of different things, and especially non-fiction books. And today I want to share with you the top 5 books that made a huge impact for me as a data scientist as non-technical books. One is The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, and this one is a gold mine for those that need a little bit of motivation to get going. I read this one 5 years ago, and at the time I didn't used to have any side hustles, I didn't used to be productive, I didn't even read much at the time. And that book taught me something very fundamental, is that anything that is easy to do, it's also easy not to do. Think about it, you could read 10 pages a day and you'll tell me, well, I can do even more. But the thing is, if you do just 10 pages a day, they will compound into a few books within a year. And that just a simple small habit will turn into something major for your life. And that book is all about that. It's all about that 1% improvement that you can make every day in order for you to grow massively over a year. As James Clear said, 1% every day compounds into 37 times improvement within 1 year. It just shows the power of small compounded habits in your life. The thing is, the good habits compound and the bad ones compound as well. And this is something that is applicable in your career as well, is that if you dedicate a little bit of time in upskilling every day or every week, that will compound in you gaining the skill. But if you just take your job for granted and you never learn on the side, then that will affect you negatively. So think about a good habit as a +1 in your day and a bad habit as a -1 in your day. And ideally, you need to be in a positive balance at the end of each day. Second is called Well Done, and this book is a fantastic book on management. It's all about leading with positivity. So the story behind this book is the author went to SeaWorld in the USA and he went to see a whale show. And during his visit there, he couldn't believe how could those whales perform all those things on stage, obviously under the water, because how can you train whales even? And he went to the trainer, the person in there, and asked him to even pay him for that knowledge. How did he manage to train whales? And he told him, I trained them with positivity. Instead of scaring them every time they do something wrong or hitting them, like things that you see in circuses, he rewards them every time they do the thing that he wanted them to do. So let's say, for example, the whale had to go just above a certain thing. He let the whale try and try and try, and when the whale does it, he rewards with food or with a nice touch. And the whale, appreciating that positive response, will try and do more of it. And this is applicable in our lives as well. We tend to overly focus on the failure, on the thing that the person did wrong, and we forget everything good that person has done. So in management, you have these micro managers that are very toxic, and they usually only pinpoint where you made a mistake, and they're not opening you to experimenting more because you're afraid to fail and again make mistakes. But this book teaches you how to lead with positivity, how to always try and reward people even for the smallest things, the smallest gestures. If you saw that someone went above and beyond to do something for you, go and thank them. Say that you appreciate the fact that they did that thing for you. They will always remember it, and therefore they'll be willing to do more for you. So this one, if you're into a little bit of management and you want to improve your management skills, I highly recommend it. Number 3, it's from Ali Abdaal. It's called Feel Good Productivity. I made a full video on it, but this book is cool because he removes the stereotype on productivity that it's daunting, it's very rigid, that you're somewhere close by and you're in full focus all the time. This one introduces play and fun into your productivity. Because think about it, sometimes when you're with a friend and you do a fun activity, time just flies by. But when you think about it as work or something, it feels very slow. And here Ali Abdaal tries to introduce us to adding a lot of fun in our work. And you might be thinking, hey, but my work is not fun. It's not the work itself, it's the way you approach the work. Sometimes when I work, I just bring a nice drink, a very fresh fizzy drink, and put it on my side and play a specific kind of music that I like, and I feel good. And that just adds a little bit of spice into my work. It could be anything, add in some walks. You can be creative with this, but try to add a little bit of play into your work environment so that you can feel good while being productive. Because at the end of the day, it's very important to find a balance between your body, your mind, and being successful professionally and personally as well. And if you don't feel good about the things that you do, you'll feel miserable even when you achieve the goals. If you're enjoying the video so far, please remember to give a like and subscribe. If you have any books that you'd like me to cover maybe in the future, please drop them in the comment section. I'll make sure to read all of them and see which ones I can cover in the future. Next one is The Diary of a CEO from Stephen Bartlett. He's a famous British entrepreneur, podcaster, and whatsoever. This book has been a real game changer for me since I read it. And even though it says The Diary of a CEO, don't think about it as just a business book. He shares so much advice in management, in personal development, in business, in relationships. So it's full of wisdom about his life and his experiences. So it's not just about business, it's way more than that. In one of the chapters, he talks about filling the 5 buckets. So the first bucket is knowledge, then skills, then network, then resources and reputation. If you manage to fill each and every one of these baskets, you set yourself for success. The people that take the most risks are the ones that are more likely to fail, obviously, but are the ones that are more likely to win ultimately. And that's something that he emphasizes in the book, that taking no risks is your biggest risk. One key aspect that Stephen Bartlett emphasizes in his book and in his personal life is that he sweats the small stuff. He gives attention to small detail religiously. He believes in the concept of Kaizen, which is a Japanese concept of continuous improvement. There's always room for innovation. There's always room for improvement. And even the small, tiniest things, he also focuses on them. Obviously, if you're a solo entrepreneur or a solopreneur and you do things by yourself, you'll have to optimize and prioritize the 80-20 rule. Focus on the 20% that gives you the 80% of the output and neglect the others because it's just you only have 24 hours, so you can't sweat the small stuff too much. But at some point when things grow and you start to have a team, obviously you will need to look into them so that you can get into that top 1% like he did, for example, with his podcast and with his business. And number 5 is The Courage to be Disliked. It's one of my top 3 personal development books of all time. This is a different vision of personal development and one that has a lot of self-accountability into what's happening to you, the way you think, the way people talk to you and everything. It's a very interesting conversation between a youngster and a philosopher, and the philosopher embraces the philosophy of Adler. And Adler is one of those big philosophers of the early 20th century or the 19th century with Carl Jung as well. And his philosophy is all about self-acceptance, self-accountability, and everything that is happening to you is within your control in the first place. So they dive into topics like trauma and things like this, and it can be a little bit controversial because he says that trauma is something that you create or you accept so that it justifies a few things that are happening in your life. And this can be very polarizing because you think that trauma is real. People go through events that really scar them forever. But he says that you still have control on the way you approach things and the way you heal over things. It's not as much about getting all the information about the Adler philosophy because we can't necessarily agree with everything, but it's a lot about the self-acceptance and self-accountability, that everything is within your power. And as long as you accept the fact that your situation right now is caused by your actions and that your situation tomorrow again will be caused by your actions, then why don't you change your current behavior into a new behavior that will lead you to better health, success, relationships, and whatsoever. And again, you want to see a detailed video on feel-good productivity or The Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett. I made those both videos some time ago. I'll link them in the description below, or you can find the Ali Abdaal one just here. You can click on it, go and watch it, and let me know if you enjoy.